researchers who are relatively advanced in their career with respect to research, and those who are the beginners. For the beginners, this review of literature is very important to know what actually the research is, how the research paper is written. So just to have a first-hand knowledge about the research process, how the article looks like. Normally we, the teachers, the guides, ask our student to just read some papers that we normally used to call literature review. But for the advanced researchers, this review of literature is equally important, and you will find that some of the very senior professors, they have also contributed significantly by writing some review papers. And the citation of review papers are substantially higher than any other paper normally, because of the reason that one review paper consists of almost all the information related to that particular discipline at one place, and that's the importance of review paper. So what exactly is literature review? A review of literature is an account of what has been published on a topic by other scholars and researchers. So before starting any research work, it would be interesting to know what other researchers have done on the similar area. What account of literature is already available, what other scholars and researchers have done, and where is the gap. So that review of literature is just an account of that. You need to know what your previous researchers have done in this area. And normally in our MPhil and PhD thesis, this review of literature happens to be a separate chapter. But in case of research article, this review of literature, sometimes it happens to be a separate chapter, separate heading, and sometimes while defining the problem itself, this review of literature is included. And the problem is defined considering the literature which is already available. We used to define this problem, and then we may not be finding a separate section of review of literature. Rather, that review of literature section will be merged with the introduction section itself. So it should not be in a mechanical way. A researcher should comment on the review and clearly write his opinion. So how to write this review of literature? But before writing, what is the purpose of doing this literature review? So purpose is to convey, simply convey what knowledge and ideas have been established on a topic, and what have been established on a topic, and what are their strengths and weaknesses. Okay. So this just some typographical error is there. So just the purpose is to convey what knowledge, idea, and what are the strength and weakness of the previously published literature. That we need to know. It is a piece of writing. The literature review must be defined by a guiding concept, our research objective, the problem or the issue are discussing, or the argumentative thesis. It is not just a descriptive list of materials available or a set of summaries. Many times we find in some of the theses, even in some of the research papers, that in the name of literature review, our students just copy and paste some of the paragraphs, maybe from the abstract or maybe from the summary or the conclusion. That part they used to copy and paste. So it is not just a list of materials already available or a set of summaries. It is beyond that. We need to know, besides just writing about what was the finding of the previous researcher, we also need to identify what was the strength of that article, what was the weakness of that particular piece of writing. That we need to know. So in order to understand any subject, anything, if we know what exactly is not that particular area, then it will be easier for us to know the subject. So if you want to know about literature review, we must know what exactly is not literature review. Normally we, the students, used to write in the name of literature review there are certain things after this slide you will get to know that this will not fall within the category of literature review. And what is that? Only chronological arrangement of all the sources is not the review, but an evaluation of the previous research together is essential. Many times you will find in some of the research papers, some of the theses, that simply all the sources are just arranged chronologically in a tabular form. Okay, like the literature in this particular area, the following literature is available: 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 in a tabular form. Just name of the author, then the year of publication. This is just an arrangement. So just a chronological arrangement of all the sources is not literature review. Then what will be literature review? An evaluation of the previous research together is essential. What was, and when we talk about evaluation, what was there in that evaluation? Okay, what is there in that particular research? What are their strengths and weaknesses, limitations? Where that researcher have contributed substantially, and where that researcher lacks, that there is a gap and you need to fill it up. That commentary is very essential. That evaluation is very essential. Chronological arrangement is fine, that you, because every time you cannot write everything about all the papers. So sometimes you need to, if you have to summarize your article or you have to shorten your article, then simply you have to chronologically arrange all the articles. But after that, there is a comment on that table is essential. Okay, what those articles convey about, what those articles were all about, and what are their strengths and weaknesses, that commentary is essential. Then all sides of an argument must be clearly explained to avoid bias. All sides of an argument. If you are just building upon some research concept, if you're building upon some problem, a research problem, you're trying to define some problem, normally we fall prey to this confirmatory bias that whatever we believe, if only that is there in that article, we will write only that part which actually conforms to our belief, and any part in the same article which contradicts our belief, that normally we used to avoid. That is not a literature review. So normally we, the students, do that. If in any article, if some findings are supporting our views, supporting our hypothesis, we just consider that, and if some of the aspects in the same article are not supporting our views, we used to avoid all those things, all those paragraphs. That is actually a bias, and we should not do that. Any areas of agreement and disagreement should be highlighted. Good literature review should also have some evaluation of the quality and the findings of the research. Simply something has already been published, it does not mean that we should include it, all those literatures, in our review. You will find some comments from some of the reviewers that you are supposed to quote only from some of the reputed journals. Any publication should not be simply quoted only because it has already been published, it is available, and we are supposed to take help of all those arguments which has been given in those published papers to build our argument. No, we should have some discriminating power, whether we should accept this journal or we should not accept this journal, whether we should accept this piece of writing or we should not accept this piece of writing. So as a researcher, as a good researcher, we should have that much of the discriminating power that this particular paper is not worthy for consideration to be included in our set of literature review. That discriminating power we should have. So that's why a good literature review should also have some evaluation of quality. Okay, so only qualitative journals, qualitative articles should be included in our literature review. Not just, I repeat that, not simply something should be included in our literature review only on the ground that it has already been published in some journal. There are plenty of journals available in India, outside India, which does not fall into the category of good journal. Simply you pay some publication fees. I'm not saying that good journals are not accepting publication fees. Good journals are also accepting publication fees. If you just see many of the journals of Elsevier and then Blackwell Wiley or even Oxford, they used to charge article processing charge. MDPI journal, they used to charge article processing charge, APC, and that amount is substantially high, $2,000, $3,000 or 2,000 Swiss franc or pound. That is the amount of publication fees. But they are good journal. But there are certain journal where you just pay 1500 rupees for your article to be published, and they will publish your article just by accepting 1500 rupees, 1200 rupees, 700 rupees. And if you just see what are the quality of the articles which are published in those journals, you will find that the situation is pathetic. And if you try to build your argument, your paper, your research problem on the basis of those findings, then you will be in trouble. Because many a times, if you just find the interpretation of all those articles, the interpretation given in those articles, you will find something else which is not actually which is not the reality. So you should have some evaluation of the quality and the findings of the research. So only qualitative journals, qualitative articles should be included. So this is not literature review. Then the question is, why we need to do literature review? We have already stated at the beginning that why we need to do literature review. For the young researcher as well as for the advanced researcher, both need literature review. But the question is, why? Why a young researcher, a student who have just enrolled himself or herself in a PhD program, they need to do literature review? And why a person who is writing a research paper at a very advanced stage in his life or her life need to do literature review? So the idea is very simple. To identify gap in the research area. Because if you have undertaken some research, definitely you will be trying to venture into that area where nobody have stepped into. And how will you know that? Where is the gap? Which is the area which has not yet been explored? Which is the area which has not yet been contributed substantially by the researchers? Or even if some researchers have contributed in that, even then there will be some gray area. Some gaps will be there. So to identify the gaps in the research area, this literature review is essential. And now what is gap? There are some types of gap that nobody have entered into this area. Nobody have ventured into this area. Gap is clearly identifiable. But sometimes the gap is also with respect to time and with respect to geography. For example, just a very popular research topic, customer satisfaction or job satisfaction. There will be plenty of research done in the area of customer satisfaction. But if you have to establish the gap, how will you establish the gap? Suppose someone is undertaking the same study in Nagaland, and he or she can identify that since a lot of studies have been done in the area of customer satisfaction in Europe, in different parts of the country, India, but since the geography of Nagaland, the economy of Nagaland, the profile, the ethnicity, the socio-economic and cultural profile of the people of Nagaland is different than that of India, and that's why the finding which is there for rest of the India is not applicable for Nagaland, and there is no study conducted in Nagaland. This is the gap, and I wanted to fill this gap by doing this study because Nagaland is not similar to the socio-economic, cultural and ethnic profile of Nagaland is different than that of the rest of the country, and that's why the customer satisfaction in Nagaland needs to be different, needs to be dealt differently. This is how you can just establish a gap. Or there are certain studies, certain areas where some research have been conducted maybe 10 years back, maybe the year 2005, and you know, and if you can identify, if you can establish that the latest available research in this area is in the year 2005, and since 2005 to 2021, this 16 years, lot of water has already uh, passed down the river, and lot of changes have taken place. It's earlier it was 2G, then 3G, and now 4G and 5G revolution is coming up. The whole domain, that particular domain, have changed, and that's why we need to enter, we need to explore this area once again, because the latest available research in this area is in the year 2005 or 2006, and after that no study have been conducted and the circumstances have changed. This can be a research gap. And how will you get to know about all these things? You need to know, you will be able to know about this gap only when you will be conducting literature review. And now just take the example of customer satisfaction, or suppose the gap, the paper which I am talking about in the year 2005. So what kind of literatures you need to conduct? Literature review you need to conduct. In the first place, you will be collecting literature related to customer satisfaction in India. Then you will be collecting literature with respect to how Nagaland is different than that of India, how culturally Nagaland is different than that of India, demographic profile, cultural profile, socio-economic profile, ethnic profile of Nagaland is different. All this literature you need to conduct. Then it has to be assimilated, it has to be harmonized with that of the literature on customer satisfaction for the rest of India, and then you can identify where is the gap. Recently we are conducting a research on Nagaland, and we have identified that this customer experience in rest of the country and the customer experience in Nagaland will be different, because there are plenty of research available in the area of customer experience for rest of India, but for customer experience in Nagaland is not available. And why separate study on customer experience of Nagaland need to be conducted? For that, again, we need to do a literature review on the economy and the ethnicity and the culture of Nagaland, and then we can just synchronize the things and we can identify the gap. So to identify the gap, we need literature review. So gap can be simply something, some area has been explored, some geography has been explored. There can be a gap with respect to the timeline that the research was conducted much older, and recently no literature, no research has been conducted in the similar area in the recent times, and this can be a gap. So the gap can be from many perspectives, and you as a smart researcher have to establish that gap. Then to avoid repetition, suppose you don't do literature review, then what? Repetition. Someone else have done the similar work, and you will also be doing the similar work. So ultimately the person who will be publishing their paper first will get all the credit, and since you have also done the equally hard work, equal amount of money, time and energy have been spent by you in the same kind of research, but since that kind of research is already available, and simply you will be getting one comment from the reviewer that there is no novelty in this area, because the similar work is already published, or there are plenty of literature available in the similar area. So there is no novelty, there is no newness in this area, because this is just a repetition of the earlier work. Okay. So if you don't want to do that, if you don't want to be the victim of that kind of editorial comment, you should do a sufficient literature review to identify the gap. And to carry on from where others have already completed. If you just do a literature review, and if you just read all those papers carefully, you will find at the end of all those papers, there is a section on scope of future research or the limitations of the study. And this limitation of this study and the scope of future research is an indication for you where you can venture into. Like what this paper is all about, what this paper is contributing, and what are the areas which has not been covered by this paper, which needs to be explored, which needs to be covered in future. So that also you will be able to know only when you read all those papers, that is from literature review. You will be getting the idea about from where others have already completed. You need to go beyond that. You need to fill the gap beyond that. What others have already done, that need not to be taken care of, and after that how the gap, how the unexplored part, uncovered part will be taken care of. If you want to know that, you need to do a sufficient literature review in that area. Then to identify and contact other people working in the same field. You have started working in some area, and then you need to identify some other people who are also working in the same area. So how will you get to know about all those things? Suppose I am working in the area of finance, some area of finance, say for example behavioral finance, and a new scholar, they have just started working in the area of behavioral finance. They also wanted to know about behavioral finance. They wanted to identify, they want to work with the people who are already working in the area of behavioral finance because they have explored this area much earlier than them. Then how will you know? So if you just do a thorough literature review, you will get to know some of the citations, some of the references, the name of some of the people who are already working in this area, and in that research paper itself, their email ID, their phone numbers, at least their affiliation will be there, and with that you can contact those people. And this is a suggestion also for the young researchers. If you are working on some area, try to contact people who have already worked in that area. Send your abstract with a request to the other people who have already worked in that area, that I am working in this area on this topic. I have the abstract of my work, the summary of my work is this, and if you want to collaborate, I will love to collaborate with you. And in that way you can just build your network, because those people, they are very wise people, and definitely if they will collaborate with you, the quality of your paper will improve simply because of their collaboration. So you should just identify some of those people. And how will you identify? Again, through literature review, just to see the references, whose references are coming, and just to from that reference you can identify, you can trace the original author of that particular paper, and in that particular paper the email ID and all the details, academic affiliation, institutional affiliation will be there, and you can contact, you can identify those people. So if you want to build your network, you need to do a thorough literature review. If you want to build your network with the people who have contributed significantly in your area, so how will you get to know that so and so has contributed significantly in your area? Again, during the literature review, during the course of literature review, whose papers are frequently coming, definitely they are the people who have contributed significantly in that area, and those people need to be contacted to get their advice, so that you can just implement, work upon all those advices and improve your paper so that it can be published in some good journals. Many people have done it, we have done it, you can also do it, and this will help you in just building a network. And to refresh the knowledge and debate going on the subject, sometimes you need to challenge the earlier paper, challenge the earlier finding, that the finding of such and such paper is not adequate or is not appropriate, okay, or the methodology adopted by such and such paper is not adequate, and my methodology is better, or I can improve upon the same methodology and I can arrive at a better finding than the previous one. So if you want to do that, then also if you want to just start a new debate, challenge the existing knowledge, challenge the existing finding, then also you need to do a thorough literature review. Then there are two important objectives of doing literature review. First, we have identified what is not literature review, then the purpose of literature review we have done. Then the entire exercise of doing this literature review, why we need to do literature review, can be summed up in two important objectives. The entire objective of doing this literature review can be summarized into two headings. One is information seeking. First objective of doing literature review is information seeking. You are just seeking information. Okay, what methodology has been adopted by the early researcher, what was the sample size taken by most of the researchers, what kind of tools have been used by the early researchers, what kind of statistical test adopted by the earlier researchers, what are the journals where the earlier research work has been published, what were the keywords that were actually being used by the early researchers. All these informations need to be assimilated at one place, and for that we need to do literature review. Remember, my friends, literature review is not just collection of the findings of the different articles, that so and so found this, so and so found this, so and so found this, so and so found this. Normally many of our students, the young researchers, they used to write in that way only. But the literature review is beyond that. As I have stated, that just you try to think from the perspective how many tables can be framed with the literature review or the papers that you have studied. For example, you can have one table on the countries which has been covered by, say, suppose you have taken 100 research papers, 100 latest research papers in your area, and you can just have a table like what are the countries where this particular study has been conducted. And you can have, like, in India 3 papers, in Malaysia 4 papers, China 12 papers, USA 5 papers. That can be one kind of information you can prepare. Then you can have one table like for the last, the paper that you have selected, out of all those papers, the authors belongs to which country? If that is your question, just make one table that from which country of the world most of the authors are coming, and you can just collect from the name of the author, and you can just make one table that from India these are the authors, from USA, from UK, from Australia, from Argentina, from Brazil, from China, from Middle East. These are the authors, important authors who are coming. Then you can have one table for the keywords. What keywords are frequently used in such kind of research? Then you can have one table for the different tools and techniques, statistical tools and techniques used. Then you can have one table on the sample, about the sample size. Then the sampling design, what kind of sampling design. Then you can have one table about what kind of research it is followed, whether it is descriptive research or empirical research or case study research, qualitative or quantitative. That kind of tabulation you can just frame. So the first objective of doing literature review is information seeking. You are just preparing all those tables doing this literature review, so that when in future somebody will be entering into the similar area, your paper will be a benchmark for them, that you have done some kind of literature review in the year 2021 where this was the entire scenario with respect to this particular area, and it is published in such and such journal. So a person who will be studying your research paper, that review paper, will get to know about all the details about that area in a single file, in a single paper, and he need not to consult all those 100 papers differently. And this is the reason that most of the review papers are highly cited. Then critical appraisal is another objective. What do you mean by critical appraisal? This critical appraisal is that you are not only seeking information, you are not only just collecting the findings of the different research papers, but at the same time you are trying to build a nomological network. You are trying to build a theory with that finding, like which variable is affecting which variable, and ultimately with that literature review you are trying to frame the research model. You are trying to propose a research framework, like these are the variables. If you are just doing a cause and effect relation study, cause and effect study, then these are the variables which ultimately affect an dependent variable, or there may be some intervening variable. So all this critical appraisal is possible only on the basis of literature review. If there are no literature review, this critical appraisal is not possible. Not only for proposing some research framework, but also, as I stated earlier, that to challenge the earlier finding, also you need to do literature review. That earlier finding is something not appropriate. There are certain flaws, there are certain limitations in the earlier finding, and you can suggest some better model, with a better tool, better technology can be suggested, and with that the findings can be refined or the findings can be improvised. So this is about the critical appraisal. Then the question is, what key skills are needed when writing a review of the literature? What key skills are needed? So first thing is that to provide readers with just the right amount of literature regarding the sequence of events leading up to the current situation. This is the first thing, to provide readers with just the right amount of literature. Now, what is the right amount of literature? This right amount of literature, again, it is very subjective. For certain domains, even 2 papers may be the right amount of literature, but for certain domains, even 200 papers may not be the right amount of literature. It depends to what extent that area has been explored. And my dear friends, it is not necessary that the paper or the area where 200 papers are already there, so there is no scope for future research. Definitely there are a lot of research has already been done, but why 200 papers are there? Because definitely other people are finding that area very fertile, because still though there are 200 papers available in that area, but still there are gaps. Might be the area is frequently changing, very dynamic area. Say something related to say IT, where IT, the technology is changing every second day, and it was suppose someone have done some study using certain algorithm or certain tool, but the same tool can be used for the new environment, new dynamics with new circumstances. So the tool or the area will remain same, but the findings will keep on changing, and which will give a sufficient fuel to the researchers to venture into those areas continuously. And regarding the sequence of the events leading up to the current situation. And take into account readers who are up to date with your research area. Okay, so one skill that is needed for literature review, that you need to make your readers up to date in that research area. As I stated, that if somebody is reading your research paper or review paper in the year 2021, he or she should be assured that all the recent developments, the relevant developments in that particular area till the year 2021 have been covered in that particular research paper, and that the person need not to go or need not to read any other article to know more about that area. So that up-to-date account of all the literature should be there, and not to delay giving in new information for too long. It means that if suppose new information is there, a quality of a research paper, review paper, is not only just on the basis of the number of citations, but also on the basis of number of recent references. And those who have submitted your article in some journals, you will find some comment from the reviewer that the citation, the reference given in this particular article is lacking some newness. Like the recent reference given in this article, I've got some comment like recent reference given in this article is of the year 2018. It means from 2018 to 2021, there may be a lot of developments in that area, and all those recent developments, recent informations should be included in that article. So we should include all those new informations. We should not delay it. Then I'm just taking some of the typical complaints of the referees. Some of the complaints of the referees which I got, you might have also got the similar kind of comments from some of your referees. So what kind of complaints these referees are making with respect to the papers that they have to reject? One typical comment is, the author has not made it clear why some references are mentioned. They appear to be there just to make the paper longer, in which they succeeded perfectly, and seem more important, in which they fail, rather than as support for the author's approach. This is one very interesting comment I received from one of the referee for one of the paper of my student, that author has not made it clear why some references are mentioned. Then I think this line itself is sufficient to make you understand that if you are mentioning some of the references, it should be relevant, it should be specific, it should be accurate, and they should not be simply given some references. You should not simply quote some of the papers in your article just to make the paper longer. Many students, they have the belief that if the paper is longer, then it has got the high probability of being published, and if the paper is shorter, then it is there is less probability of being published. This is a wrong notion. Okay, so a literature review should not be just included in some of the paper just to make it longer, but it should be a support for the author's approach. Why you are adopting this approach? To support your approach, that literature review should be there in a paper. Another type of complaint that referees make: the authors do not seem to be aware of the state of the art. I strongly recommend they widen their literature research. In addition, they have too many references from work carried out in their own country. The literature review is not international enough, and the context is thus too myopic. I think if you just read this line, these lines are self-explanatory. First thing is that authors do not seem to be aware of the state of the art. Okay, now what is the state of the art? That is the recent developments and the problem that you are dealing with, and how you will deal with that problem, how will you handle that problem, and you will handle your research so that you will arrive at some conclusion. That is actually state of the art. So from the literature review, the referee will be making an idea about to what extent you are aware about the recent developments and the problem that you are stating. That problem will be justified, the problems will be appropriate only when it is supported by the sufficient literature review. There is one very popular dialogue, and I often quote this dialogue in most of my presentations. It is related to the research methodology, that there is a popular dialogue in Hindi cinema during this 80s and 90s that सभी सबूतों और बयानातों के आधार पर ये अदालत ताजिराते हिंद दफा 302 के तहत मुजरिम विजय को सजाए मौत मुकर्रर करती है. Now the question is, सभी सबूतों और गवाहों के आधार पर, in research also you have to write everything based on the sabut and gawah, and your references, your literature review is gawah, and your data will be your sabut. And if you are writing anything beyond your gawah and sabut, that is beyond the data and the references, that will be simply considered as your opinion, and it is not a research article. And if you are highlighting any problem without sufficient literature review, without sufficient data, documentary evidence, then that will be simply your opinion, but it will not be a research problem to be considered as a state of the art. This is the first part, state of the art. Why that research problem and state of the art has to be built upon? So there is an importance of literature review in that building the state of the art, and that's why the reviewer is recommending, I strongly recommend they widen their literature search. So with widening your literature search, you will be able to build the problem, build the statement of the problem appropriately, accurately. Second, in addition, they have too many references from the work carried out in their own country. This is a limitation. Okay, that if you are only citing references from the work which is carried out in your own country, but the question is how the reviewer will get to know. Simply the reviewer will get to know because in the research you will be writing the scope of the study in the research methodology section, that this study is conducted in the state of Nagaland of India, and if most of your research, most of your references, most of your literature is cited from India, it means that your view is very much myopic. You are not considering what actually is happening in the other part of the globe. Okay, so and if you are not considering what is happening in the other part of the globe, other part of the world, it means that you are ignoring, and as I stated at the beginning of my discussion, that you are falling prey to the confirmatory bias, that you are only collecting informations, you are only collecting data which is supporting your view, and any data, any view which is not supporting or contradicting your view, you are systematically ignoring them. And In this way, you are making your own research paper very much myopic, and the chances that your paper will be accepted in some good journal will be relatively less. There are papers cited in the bibliography or the reference section that are not mentioned in the paper, and vice versa. This is actually a typographical error, but this will reflect the seriousness of a researcher. This will reflect the depth of a researcher, because there are two parts of a literature review. One is a citation and another is a reference. Citation is which is given in the running text. Okay. For example, if suppose someone is citing my paper like Singh 2020, Singh 2020. So Singh 2020 will be there in the main body of the literature, main text, and then the full bibliographical detail will be there in the reference section. And there has to be one-to-one matching. If there are 100 number of citations, there has to be 100 number of references. There can be more citations also, because Singh 2020 can be cited at 3 different places but can have 1 reference only. It's possible. So there can be more, but the reverse is not true. Okay. So all those citations and references has to be matched. Okay. This is though it is a very small error, but this gives a very wrong impression to the reviewer that you are not actually very much familiar with writing literature review, or how to do literature review are not very much familiar. So you are ultimately its impression is all in this world, and this should be removed and added as appropriate. Okay, the question is, how should I structure my review of literature? How the review of literature should be structured? First thing, a literature review generally answers the following questions, and generally in the following order. Use the answers to the questions to structure a literature review. This is the order. What is that? What are the seminal work on my topic, and do I need to mention this? Whatever the paper, whatever the study you are doing, there will be certain work which will be considered seminal work. Seminal work, the most important work in your topic, in your area. And most of the time, the researchers or researchers actually, they used to build their paper from that seminal work only. Like, this is the seminal work. From there, these are the limitations. Then from this paper, another paper was written citing, removing all those limitations, but there are certain other limitations. Then this paper was written, but these are the areas which are not covered, and I am trying to cover this area. So in every area there will be some seminal work. For example, if someone is willing to do some work in service quality, then definitely the model proposed by Parasuraman's work will be a seminal work in the area of service quality. Though it was published in the year 1985, then 81 and 91, and after that also. But the initial work proposed by Parasuraman in the year 1985 or 1988 will be the seminal work. Similarly, if someone is willing to do some study on nudge theory in behavioral finance, so we know that Professor Richard Thaler's paper on nudge theory is a seminal paper. And after that, many papers have been written on nudge theory, but that will be the seminal paper. We need to build our paper from that seminal paper. And do I need to mention this? This is a question. So this is the order of this is one way of structuring your literature review. Then second, what progress has been made since this seminal work? This was a seminal work, and after that, what progress have been made? In what aspect these progresses were there? All these progresses needs to be documented, needs to be highlighted, not very elaborately, but maybe one line or one sentence about all those progresses needs to be highlighted, so that you can establish the research gap. What are the most relevant recent works? Maybe the seminal work was published in the year 1985, but the most relevant research work may be in the year 2020 or 21. So from 1985, then some progress have been made, and the most relevant work in the year 2021, 2019, this recent research work and relevant also. Not only recent but relevant, that also needs to be highlighted. What is the best order to mention this work that you need to identify? What are the achievements and limitations of this recent work? This recent work, if this recent work is free of any limitations, then there is no question of doing any research, because the recent work is answering all the questions, and if there are no limitations, then there cannot be any further research. So definitely, though the paper was published in the year 2020 or 2021, yet there can be some limitations, maybe in the form of methodology or maybe in the form of area covered geographically or conceptually, both the areas. So there will be some limitations of this recent work, and with your research work you are trying to fill this gap where these limitations are. So what gap do these limitations reveal? That already explained. And how does my work intended to fill this gap? I request all the young researchers to just take a screenshot of this. There is one literature review form. Okay, so you just make one literature review form. Take a screenshot of this literature review form, and what you will do, in one form you will just write all these things like title of the article, who are the authors, name of the journal, year, volume number and page number. Then what was the hypothesis in that particular paper, what are the variables taken, then how these variables were measured, just one line, sampling strategy if it is applicable, what are the sources of data, then what kind of experiment conducted, what kind of statistical test conducted, a statistical procedure, and what are the findings. And not more than one page, one form for one paper. So ultimately, if you have reviewed 100 papers, you should have just 100 forms. And if you do that, so this your 100 papers may be in it may be 100 papers may be in say 2000 or 3000 pages. So your 3000 pages will be converted to this 100 pages, and later on all this literature review form can be again entered into Excel file, so that in one single file, single master file, you have the information about all the 100 papers. And later on, suppose if you want to make one table based on the year of publication, like in which year how many papers have been published, and since all your articles, all your information is given in the Excel form, simply just using some Excel function you can prepare one table on the basis of year. Then hypothesis, what are the variables for that one table can be framed, what are the sources of data, primary data or secondary data, one table can be formed. So ultimately, if suppose you have to write some paper, review paper, or you have to quote something in your paper, in your thesis, later on you have to justify something, then simply you need not to go through all those 2000 pages. Simply you have to find out one relevant literature review form, and you can identify, you can just fill this gap, and you can write your thesis or paper. Okay, so this is one way. How should I begin my literature review? How can I structure it to show the progress through the years? This is a very important question. How should I begin my literature review? And how can I structure it to show the progress through the years? Okay. This is one example. Persistence has most often been studied in terms of cultural differences. This is someone is doing some study on cultural differences. So persistence has most often been studied in terms of cultural differences. Blinko 1992 found that Japanese elementary school children showed greater task persistence than their American counterparts. School type and gender were not factors in moderating task persistence. This left culture as the remaining variable. Now, the first sentence of the first paragraph introduces the main topic. That is, when we have read this, it means that this study is about the cultural difference. And the rest of the paragraph briefly reviews a major study on this topic. The implications of this study, culture as the remaining variable, are summarized at the end of the paragraph. Use present perfect tense. It's advisable to use present perfect tense in your while writing your literature review. Another example here. Hein et al. This is a typo. Et will be different, all will be different. 21, because if there are more than 2 authors, we normally used to write et al. 2001 furthered this idea by testing older Americans and Japanese subjects on responses after success or failure on task persistence. Japanese subjects were once again found to persist longer in post-failure conditions, and this was speculated to be because they were more likely to view themselves as the cause of the problem. If they were the cause of the problem, they could also solve the problem themselves, although this could only be accomplished through work and persistence. Americans were more likely to believe that outside factors were the cause of failure. Only one reference, and the remaining is just the explanation. So the first sentence of the second paragraph then moves on to the next. This is the first paragraph, is this one. This is the first paragraph, and then this is the second paragraph. So the first sentence of the second paragraph then moves on to the next in the chronological terms. Chronological terms means, because this is, just see, it was in the year 1992, and after 1992 it is in the year 2001 in the major study. Chris summarizes Hein's work in a way that involves the reader. He uses the verb speculated and then continues the next sentence using if, which gives an example of this speculation. Then see, the next is in the year 2004, again in the chronological order. These cultural studies hinted that task persistence may be predictable based on attribution style. A later experiment showed that attribution style and perfectionism level can be correlated with final grades in college level classes. Blackstein and Winkworth, 2004. And now if you just see here, the year of publication is in bracket, this is within bracket, and the name of the author is also Blackstein and Winkworth, comma 2004. This is in bracket, whereas here the name of the author is not within the bracket, only year of publication is in bracket. So when the name of the name of the author is quoted at the beginning of the paragraph, then only year of publication will be in bracket and the name of the author will be outside the bracket, as if Hein et al. Is saying that. But here, since it is given at the end of the paragraph, the name of the author, the surname of the author, both the authors, comma, year of publication will be in the bracket. The first sentence of the third paragraph summarizes the findings of the first two paragraphs. See, these cultural studies hinted that task persistence may be predictable based on attribution style. So this first sentence is actually summarizing the other two studies. Okay, in order to introduce some more recent findings, and after that some more recent findings in the year 2004 have been introduced. And then when we talk about the work of specific authors and make a summary of each step in the chronology of the literature, he used the past simple. When he talk about the work of specific authors and makes a summary of each step in the chronology of the literature, he used the past simple. Then how can I reduce the amount I write when reporting the literature? Now this is a question. How can I reduce the amount of writing when I reporting the literature? So this can be, one way is that you can present the entire information in a tabular form, in a chronological order, that where make three columns. One is the author, second is the year of publication, and third column is about the finding. Just briefly write the finding. The finding should be, you should just hit the main finding, not the entire story, only what exactly was found in that article. So and so found this particular information, very important information. Only this part should be written in the tabular form, and in that way you can write the amount that you write while reporting the literature. And how can, like the previous work and the novelty of my work in a constructive and diplomatic way, how the novelty of the work can be highlighted. And if what you propose has never been done before, begin your sentence as indicated by the words in italics below. How? As far as we know, there are no studies on. This will establish the novelty of your work. or to the best of our knowledge, the literature has not discussed. Okay, and we believe that this is the first time that we are doing this particular area. So this is how you can establish the novelty of your work in a constructive and diplomatic way. Novelty, establishing a novelty has to be done in a constructive as well as in a diplomatic way. You should not be rude and harsh. And how to do literature review? What are the variables to be studied? Whatever the variables, what are the keywords that you need to put into the system? Maybe in a Google Scholar, or maybe in some other databases like Web of Science or Emerald or Science Direct. There are certain database or ABSCO host. So what are the keywords that will be entering? So most of the time it depends what are the things that is coming to your mind with respect to that particular area, and what are the areas that you will be covering. Suppose you are writing some paper on customer satisfaction. So what are the things that you will be writing about this customer satisfaction? So better you just prepare a mind map. Mind map is without taking help of any document, any source, any internet or computer. You just draw a mind map that customer satisfaction, maybe effect of customer satisfaction, advantage of customer satisfaction, disadvantage of customer satisfaction, what are the theories related to customer satisfaction, what are the causes of customer satisfaction, what are the areas where these are the things which is directly coming to your mind. Just go and writing and then arrange your literature review in that order, and ultimately your paper will be done, your paper will complete. Just make a mind map first. References, once this is done, then next is the arrangement of the references, and you should include references carefully for all the books, articles, websites, and give their complete address separately following the standard pattern of your discipline. Every discipline has a standard pattern. Like we in the social science normally used to follow APA style, American Psychological Association. In the engineering discipline, people used to follow IEEE style. In some other discipline, this Chicago style. In literature, this MLA style. There are different styles of writing references. So which discipline you belong to? So every discipline has some standard format, standard pattern. You should follow the pattern followed by your discipline. And moreover, certain journals, in which journal you are trying to target, submit your paper, every journal have some style of writing references. You should follow all those that style while writing your references. Then all the references, I already stated that whatever the work has been cited in the text, the same should be given in the references. There should not be any kind of mismatch that you have cited 100 papers and in the reference only 60 papers are given. So there will be definitely mismatch for the 40 papers, and you will be getting a comment from the reviewer that there is all the citations are not supported by the reference, and that can be one reason for the rejection of your paper. So include all the references carefully for all the books, articles, websites, and give their complete address separately following the pattern of the style that is being followed either by your discipline or as required by that journal. Do not include review of studies that you have not seen yourself, otherwise you will face the problem in Viva voce examination. Yes, this I have seen with my student as well, other students as well. When the expert is asking, you have mentioned this particular study in your paper, have you read this paper? Have you read this book? And it is very embarrassing for the students to say that, sir, I have not read this paper, I don't have this book, I have not read this book. And ultimately this gives a very bad impression about that student, that he or she is quoting or citing that paper or book in his thesis, but ultimately that students have not seen that book, have not read this book. Even if you have not read it, but at least you should see that paper, see that book before writing all those references. Otherwise it will give a very bad impression, and it will be very embarrassing also for the student as well as for the guide. And again, follow the pattern of your discipline while giving bibliography. As I have told you that every discipline has a separate pattern. like IEEE style, APA style, Chicago style, MLA style. So which discipline you belong to, every discipline have a pattern, just follow that pattern. And if you are trying to submit to some journal, follow the pattern of that journal. Now one thing is that systematic review, systematic literature review. Nowadays you will find some of the papers or most of the papers like systematic literature review on so and so, so and so, and there is the research agenda. What is systematic review? So systematic review is the use of the academic database as the primary source. Like some of the academic databases, like some are like Emerald is one academic database, Science Direct or Elsevier is one academic database, Springer is one academic database, Web of Science is one academic database, EBSCOhost is one academic database, Scopus is one academic database. So all these databases are used as a primary source, and what we'll do, indicate the inclusion criteria and if applicable exclusion criteria to select the work to be part of the corpus of analysis. So you from those databases, why certain number of papers have been selected? So definitely some criteria will be there. So the first criteria will be that you have used certain keywords for your paper. Suppose you are doing a study on customer experience in hospitals or in healthcare. So what will be the keywords? Customer experience will be keyword, plus hospital, plus healthcare, and some other things might be the keywords. And then using those keywords, you have got maybe 1000 papers. And humanly it is not possible to review the entire 1000 paper. So there has to be certain exclusion criteria. So what will be the first exclusion criteria? Because we are from India, we Indians, we do not know how to read and write Spanish and Chinese and German and Italian or Russian. So out of those 1000 papers, maybe a plenty of papers will be in Portuguese or Spanish or Chinese or Korean or Japanese or Russian languages. So we will be first exclusion criteria is that all those papers which are not in English language will be excluded. So this is how we will exclude all those papers which are not in the English language. Then the number will be reduced substantially. Then second exclusion criteria will be doing what, that all those papers who are older than say 10 years, they will be excluded. So all those papers like beyond 2011 will be excluded. Now your number is further lowered. Then you can use another exclusion criteria that all those papers which are not available, for which the full paper is not available, that will be excluded. Like only abstract is available will be excluded. Then the title and the abstract will be reviewed, and after reviewing abstract you will find that though this is considered by the machine, by the system, but this is not relevant for my work, so you have excluded, and ultimately you have narrowed down your search to a specific number, maybe 50, 60, 100, 105 number of papers you have included for your study in systematic literature review. And this is called, this model is called PRISMA model. PRISMA, PRISMA model. You can just note down this model, PRISMA model, and you can just search it in the internet. You will find more about this model. Then provide data to replicate the study review. Okay, this is one study or based on the PRISMA model. Here it is records screened by the abstract, article peer reviewed, full text article available 489. This is the primary inclusion and exclusion criteria. Then records, conference proceedings, editorial reports and articles not in English language have been excluded. How many? It is 17,942. 17,942 records have been excluded. What were they? They were either records, they were conference proceeding, means not journal article, editorial reports, article not in English language, which the number is 17,942. They were excluded. Let me show you some.